The next step we want to look at is recovery. So this really consists of restoring the integrity of the affected system. So it's really returning the data systems and networks to that operational state, but also making sure that improvements in defenses and improvements in controls and maybe surrounding processes are also made to prevent that incident from happening again. So when we look at the primary objectives of recovery, as we said, restoring the integrity of the system, but implementing the proactive and reactive defensive measures, making sure all the data and systems are back in operational, back operating in a normal fashion, and making sure that the complete resolution has been enacted. A system has not been left halfway recovered or only partially responded to. And then actually following through with the life cycle of incident handling and closing the incident. Now, depending on the situation, there may be recovery steps that are completed by complete other parts of the organization. So, for example, if you're rebuilding systems and services, that may be done by the IT organization, by local system and network administrators. If you're looking at ensuring the data and the integrity of your data itself, that may be being performed by lines of business who actually own the data. So thinking about recovery, very often the incident management team is not the group that does the recovery steps, but those recovery steps are an important part of the total response process. So you might see people break out and not just talk about response in general, but response and recovery is two separate things because of the fact of response is more the containment eradication, the courses of action, and recovery is the part that is performed by another part of the organization. So you have to think about what actually works for your own organization. If a system has been compromised by an intruder at the privileged access level where they had root or administrative access, rebuilding it may be the only way to ensure that all the malicious code and any other artifacts from the intrusion are removed. Certainly, though, there are ways that intruders have to easily reinstall some of the malicious code and malicious artifacts that they have. So really thinking through and understanding what the intruder did to ensure that you're choosing the right recovery strategy. When we talk about verifying the system data, that can be a massive undertaking. And again, we said line of business might be who has to do that because the incident management capability probably will not understand and know when the data has full integrity or not. That's going to be the data owners themselves. As far as changing passwords for systems, that can be very difficult too because of the fact of have the eradication steps been done? Are you sure that all remnants of the intruder have been removed? Are they on other systems? Do they have other tools where they're watching what's done? You don't want to change passwords and still have the intruder have access within your network to, again, capture those passwords and be able to gain access. So when and how that's done can be a much more complicated process. And then also taking the opportunity during recovery to put in better security controls, turn on logging if it was missing, change organizational processes or procedures for how staff actually perform their functions related to activities that allowed an intruder to gain access to your system. So thinking about how you improve your network and host security as part of your recovery strategy. And then making sure, as we said, that that recovery is finished, that all the steps have been taken, that the recovery has been documented, and that all the right stakeholders, including management, victims of the attack, owners of the system, have been notified when the recovery operations have been completed. We've mentioned that there may be others involved in recovery. Usually that's the information technology or local system administrators who may be actually rebuilding systems or changing software, hardware, and network configurations. But if it's a large service or infrastructure disruption, there may be a trigger into the business continuity operations where there may be larger efforts that need to be undertaken to ensure the continued operation of organizational assets and services. So understanding how those other organizational components fit into the recovery process and ensuring that's been documented and that the right triggers have been documented and the workflows for when to engage or how to engage those other sections of the organization have been institutionalized can be an important part in the whole response process. We can look at kind of a very high-level set of steps, knowing that each one of these steps has many sub-steps and sub-processes that could be taken. But basically, recommended steps to respond to a compromise begins with, if you've not encountered this activity, this malicious activity before, then you want to consult your security policy, consult management for guidance on if this hits the level of being an incident and what type of components within the organization should be involved, what types of things the incident management team needs to do to execute response. We've mentioned that documenting the steps you take in recovery is very important, including any new information that you've learned, any additional analysis that's done. Regain control of the system. This is one of our containment options that we talked about. And then as we analyze the intrusion or analyze a breach or analyze whatever malicious activity has occurred and try to understand what the points of access were, what systems were affected, what data has been impacted, what operational services have been impacted, and then ensuring that you can contact anyone else that was involved, especially any victim sites or any security organizations that may be experiencing the same thing, sharing information with them to understand, do they know more than you found out about this particular intrusion? Do they know about any mitigations that are out there? And then taking all the information that you've learned, also as part of your analysis, you look at and research mitigation strategies. And so we've just said that can be part of why you would contact other security sites. Using all that information then to build those courses of action, the longer term recovering from the intrusion, so recovering your systems and data, whether that's through rebuilding systems, changing passwords, installing patches for any vulnerabilities that exist, and then improving the security of your system and networks with any new security strategies, any new defenses and tools, any new policies and procedures, any new training for your staff or for your employees. And only when you feel safe that a full response has been done and that all malicious activity and access has been eradicated would you reconnect any system back to the network and back to the internet. And if needed, if this particular activity was not something that was within your security policy, as an incident, you may need to update your security policy itself. Now, an interesting caveat, we talk about handling different types of incidents, but when we think about incident handling, what would you do different if the perpetrator of this incident was an actual insider, meaning someone who has authorized access to your networks and systems and data as part of their job as either a employee of your staff or a former employee or a trusted business partner, such as a contractor or subcontractor, or someone in your supply chain. So how would this be different? We need to think about what processes would need to be in place to properly handle what we term insider threat incidents, and who needs to be involved in handling such incidents, and how does the normal incident handling process change. So when we think about handling an incident perpetrated by an insider, again, proactively would want to make sure that we've thought about this and we have some policies and procedures in place. What some of those policies and procedures might outline or cover is who really needs to be involved to handle these type of insider threat incidents. It's probably not the same group of people that handle normal technical incidents perpetrated by external parties. It might involve a smaller group. It might involve particular types of management, HR, IT, and law enforcement liaisons or legal might be part of the team. And it might be that you do not report these incidents in the incident tracking system. They might be handled through a different process. Some organizations might handle it through a special human resource team. Some may handle it through personal security or some type of investigative unit, but it's probably handled in a more quieter manner, and the documentation is probably done in a more restricted fashion. Also, there may be different reasons why and procedures for pulling in HR, IT, legal, or law enforcement. The organization should also determine if anyone in the incident management team is even authorized to work with any of these other groups. The incident management team may be the group that actually collects the evidence of what may have been done by the insider, but they are probably not the ones that execute the response strategy. Sometimes the incident management group or others in IT may be involved to turn on specific monitoring. If someone is suspected of illegal activity or going against the security policies of an organization and more evidence needs to be collected, there may be some targeted monitoring in organizations where that can be legally done. And of course, legal has to be involved and management, HR, to ensure that it's done in a manner compliant with any laws, rules, regulations, or mandates, or internal security policies. So, if any type of monitoring is done, who gets the results, how is that tracked, and how is that used in any type of incident handling? Again, even if that may be enacted by members of the incident management team, they're probably in the long run not involved in the follow-up or response. So having a process for how you handle an incident perpetrated by an insider is another consideration in building your long-term response processes.